We are Tailgate Talk. Welcome into the show, our inaugural episode. I'm Matt Thomas. With me, we've got Trent Williams, Kyle Mawhinney. You'll hear us call him Winnie, and Kyle Schumann. You'll hear us call him Coco, because one Kyle wasn't enough. We had to go get two. Thank you so much for being here for our inaugural episode. We thought it would be a good way to start off this first show by explaining to you who we are and what we're hoping to get out of this podcast. You've probably figured out that we are not professionals. We're not Penn State beat writers. We are not sports media personalities. We are just diehard Penn State fans. We've been Penn State fans since the time we were little. We went to the school together and we graduated. And the goal of this podcast is to just kind of bring our conversations from our group chats, from our tailgates to you, to your streaming device. We love talking about Penn State football. We probably do it a little bit too much for our own health and well-being. But we're just hoping that you can have a little bit of fun with us and enjoy until we lose a game or two. And then it's going to be sad and misery. But we're not going to be breaking down film extensively. We're not going to be going in the stat line for what?
Yeah, let's not start talking about losses already. Yeah. This is the time of year I like to be optimistic. I like to be optimistic. This is where we get to be optimistic and not have to think about those things to come.
Aren't you the same guy that when Penn State loses a game, you'll listen to any college football podcast the rest of that week?
Yeah, that will be interesting because that is my thing to do. If we lose a game, I do not listen to any college football media that week. So, good point.
All right, good to know.
To get you guys an idea of what we're dealing with here with some of these guys, Coco has been struggling with his laptop camera for a little while, and he found out why it wasn't working, and he had the lens cap on it. So he needed IT to tell him that before he could get on this podcast here tonight. So we're off to a good start.
For the record, I still needed my BIOS updated, so actually it wouldn't have worked anyway. But
lens cap covered the camera, so that's
big thing. All right, should we jump into this, guys?
Yeah, go ahead, Matt. Kick it off.
All right. Well, I think I wanted to spend the majority of this first episode talking a little bit more big picture. There's going to be plenty of time over the next few weeks leading up to September 1st to talk about this year's team and what we expect to see. But I wanted to kind of just get a little philosophical here and talk about what you all think the current direction of the program is, how you think the program is faring currently over the last few years, and big picture, thinking about all the changes that have taken place in college football over the last 13 odd months. How do you think Penn State is handling those changes, and how do you think they are shaped up to handle the future of the college football landscape moving forward? So whoever wants to kick it off, and take it away.
That wasn't a loaded topic or anything.
Do you think Penn State will win a national championship in the next 2 years?
Yes or no?
There we go. Already throwing jabs at one another.
I guess
all right. Go ahead, big shot. Let's go.
First thing to talk about, I would say, is what do you guys think about James Franklin's new contract?
I mean, I don't think personally, I feel that it just came at a bad time. I mean, I think if the contract would have come at a time where the beginning of the season, when we were very high on the season, got off to a great start, but sort of when the contract was actually announced and released is when the season turned out to be not so, going so well in our favor, and I think that really set the groundwork for why fans were so disappointed in it. But I think with anything when it comes to coaching, it's just one of those questions can we do better? And a lot of coaches right now that are out there, I mean, to face it, we're not the Alabamas of the world. We're not someone that someone's just going to drop everything and run to us for. So I personally am not ecstatic about the contract, but I'm not disappointed in it because I don't think there's much better out there.
No, I agree with that.
I don't.
Matt, you want to go?
Go ahead, Coco.
No, Trent was saying I'm not sure if our program can do much better than Franklin. I know it's sometimes obviously there's warrant to that Franklin may not be the best in-game coach, and that's track record has been obviously shown the past couple seasons, but showing there in the recruiting trail, and one of these times this has to all come together, right? I mean, we're getting all these, we're high in the recruiting rankings for 23. We're getting all these big guys and we're getting there. I feel like it's just Man,
Yeah,
some
I
of these
mean, even
decisions just screw
yeah,
us
I mean,
sometimes.
to jump off of that, I mean, even last year, if you look at a lot of games, I mean, we were really close in a lot of those games. That one or two things go the other way, and we have a really solid season last year. Things just didn't seem to fall our way, and in almost every game, it went the opposite direction that we needed it to go. With a key play here or there, and it cost us a pretty decent season. I think we could have had.
I'm the one that's not supposed to be pessimistic here. You're already saying we can't do better than our current coach. Come on, we're Penn State. You gotta believe that we can do it.
Not that we can't do better. It's just I don't think we could draw the Brian Kelly leaving Notre Dame to come to Penn State.
Do
No, you're
you
probably
think?
right, but
You guys think Franklin's the guy, though? Kind of winding it back a second here. I mean, regardless of the program and recruiting and everything like that. I mean, he's a great recruiter, but do you think he can be the coach for the next 10 years?
I think this contract's going to show itself really soon. Like, I mean, it's a long-term contract, but I think within the next 2 years, I mean, we know it's a great contract and we lock this coach up, or it's an absolute bust and we got to find a way to get out of it and move on.
I know.
See, I disagree with that. I don't think it's a 10-year contract. I think it's 2 or 3 years. It's either going to be renegotiated again or it's going to be terminated.
Yeah. I mean,
that's just the way college football works.
Yeah, that's sort of what I agree. Like,
Trent, you and Matt know more of the details. Are there any like game incentives within this contract? Like, what are there? Like, what's in it? Like, what's also in it for Franklin? Is there any like bonuses for certain like wins, or because I know that's
I mean, I don't know the full details about all of those coaches have all those win incentives are in there, your bowl game incentives, your championship, your playoff incentives, like that, all that stuff's baked into all there. So, but I just think it's just one of those things where it's time to, like, his recruiting class they've been looking good. So the talent we're pulling in is some of the best talent we've had in a little while. And if he doesn't start putting the production out in the field, then he's never going to. So,
and Trent, you're saying earlier how some of the games we had last year, obviously we're 1 or 2 plays away, a lot of tough losses. 5 of our 6 losses were like single digit losses.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're getting blown out by anybody. Like, I mean, we have Ohio State. I think in the regular season, I think we were their closest opponent between.
We lost like every game by 9 points or less. So, but to your point, Trent, about it having to come together. When I was thinking of this question, I started to think about the last couple of years, think about this new stretch that's coming up, and to me, I don't know if there's ever been a more critical stretch for success than these next 3 to 5 years in our lifetime. That says a lot because, we were young, but I remember 2004 when Joe was almost forced out and, was able to come back and have that great season in 05, obviously 2012 and everything that happened. But there's just so much that's unknown and so much that still needs to be worked out. Like you have to have success because I was going to say, you look at the potential for the playoff to expand. It's probably going to go from 12 teams. We're even hearing now 16 teams. On its face, that looks like it helps us. It's a good thing, but it comes with that double-edged sword of increased fan expectations. I think rightfully so. Everyone would expect us to be a top 15 team each year. So if we don't start showing that, add in a tougher conference schedule with USC and UCLA, who knows who else, Notre Dame, Oregon, Washington coming in to the conference. And you could get yourself into like a Nebraska or a Florida State scenario where you're just churning over coaching staffs and you just can't get back to where you are. Yep. But I think you can fend a lot of that off now by getting back to where you were in like 16, 17, 18 by 2025, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Matt,
go.
I was saying, go off that, Matt, like falling into that, wheel of being in Nebraska or a Florida State of, former glory and blue bloods and all that. And I don't think right now, like I would consider us a blue blood in current college football. We had a good, spurt run there for a few years of, going to a few New Year's Six bowls. But I mean, what have we done since? Like, I feel like we don't have that continued excellence that these Alabamas and Clemson's have. Like, why can't we be that?
I think think if you're gonna look at what is a blue blood, I think
Yeah, I was
two
gonna
things.
say that's the thing. What is a
it's
blue
his-
blood?
No, there's
it's
historic blue bloods,
historical
but there's
it's historical relevancy, and then it's also recent success. So you can probably make the argument that Nebraska might not be a blue blood anymore because they haven't had success on the field in like almost 20 years. But you can probably say that Florida State, for as bad as they've been the last decade or so, they're probably still blue blood because they have just won a national championship in less than 10 years.
well,
So I think,
so would you consider
in my
Clemson a
mind,
blue blood? They don't have that historical relevance, but also they won what 2 or 3 titles in the past decade.
that's a tricky one.
I think it's a mixture of what Matt said. Like first of all, it's your age. I mean, the teams that we grew up with that were dominant as we were growing up are a lot different teams than when our parents were growing up. I mean, college football naturally changes that way. So I think it really comes down to what do you define a blue blood as? I think a traditional blue blood, we're probably in that mix, but I think you could lose your relevancy in that mix by quite a few years of going without some success. And I mean, we've had that success. Like it hasn't been that long ago, right? I mean, we're not talking. I mean, we've been relevant for quite some time, so I don't think it's. We're right on that edge. I wouldn't say we're irrelevant by any means. It's just that things haven't really gone our way the past couple seasons. But if you go back to just a few seasons ago, I mean, things were looking good. I mean, just last year we were a top 5 team in the country at that point. Like it's not like we're this team sitting on the outside that's nowhere close to where we need to be.
That's one
I think
question.
that's where I struggle though, is that we seem to always have, a fairly decent start and we get moving and then we just can't go the distance, right? We can't finish strong. And that's where I question, is it Franklin? I mean, is it arguably the investments in the program? Because I know you were mentioning Alabama. We mentioned Clemson. I mean, Nebraska arguably isn't performing as well because potentially investment. I mean, putting the money into the program. I mean, we all know that big money is really what we see as a result of some of these programs succeeding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think now more than ever, fans like. I mean, we don't have to question Nebraska's passion or anything like that, but as far as a pure size, a market size, I think it makes a difference. I mean, especially now with NIL. I mean, the fan buy-in is just as important now as it ever was because, I mean, if you're not bought into your coach and your program and things aren't turning out the way you do, you're not going to shed out that kind of money. Those donors aren't going to shed out the kind of money needed to pull these top tier recruits in if it's just going to be money out the window and we're not going to produce on field with them. So
what are your thoughts on the NIL?
What were you saying, Winnie?
With the NIL, what are your thoughts on that? I was doing a little research before the call, and I actually saw that the average college athlete, I mean, this is going across all sports. So for D1, the average college athlete's getting $3,700, but the bigger name folks are getting 6 figures. So just kind of interesting in terms of how they're going to handle everything, but it's exciting to kind of see some of these players get some money for their likeliness and their image.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that was like July 1st of not this. Obviously, this past one, but like it was in 2021. 2020, right?
It was 21. Yeah, it was pulling that back half. Yeah.
Good thing you're not an accountant.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, we should be players in NIL. I mean, we have the donors. We have the largest alumni fan base. We should have. I think we are and will be.
But I mean,
same players in NIL.
It's an issue having the quantity of donors versus a couple of big pockets. Like, I mean, one donor with really big pockets, and we have those as well. Like they exist at Penn State, but I mean, little guys like us don't. It would take our life savings combined, and we still wouldn't be making.
Hey, if our podcast gets big, can we sponsor somebody? Can we like make our own NIL?
Yeah, Kyle, we couldn't recruit you to Penn State with our NIL deal your senior year.
We'll get a 5-star O-lemon from Florida. Be like, hey, get sponsored by the podcast, and
you get that emotion, and we'll review your findings.
I think part of the problem is it's just accepting it at this point. Like we struggle. I think our fan base struggles with it because it's new, first of all. And it still kind of feels dirty. It's just not the way that things have been done, and that's just not what we pride ourselves on. Michigan is going through the same thing right now. They have, you should look at that alumni base that they have and the amount of CEOs and things like that go to Michigan. They should be killing it, but they really haven't gotten off the ground in NIL because it's just something that their university as a whole is still adjusting to. So I think we're kind of in the same boat, but you have to figure it out because everybody else is going to.
Something I think is really interesting though with NIL is I think some schools are doing things a lot more tight-lipped than others. So I mean, that's not to say that it's doing anything illegal or behind the table, but I mean, I think Penn State traditionally, when it like we do keep a very tight locker room, like we don't disclose injuries. Like I mean, there's some stuff that seems to leak out on these other teams that doesn't really ever seem to leak out of Penn State. So I think in terms of NIL, I'm curious to see like what is happening behind the scenes at Penn State that maybe the average fan isn't seeing. Maybe we are keeping up with these NIL deals. I mean, we're just not sure what they are.
And I think a lot of major programs, are acting that way. I mean, you hear Nick Saban talk about Bryce Young making, a couple $1 million. That's just one player you're talking about. But most of these big deals that you're hearing in terms of quantity of people involved, they're from the smaller schools. Like I think I just read yesterday, SMU, every player is getting a $30,000 salary.
Yeah.
Same thing happened with BYU. It's those schools that need, not calling it a gimmick, but they need that sort of thing to push them over the edge, So I think we can still be competitive. I think part of the problem is too, there's a couple different collectives for Penn State right now. I mean, there's Success with Honor. I don't even know. I've seen a couple different emails about different ones. You need to just buy in with one and just go.
What kind of stinks though is like, obviously, the whole like the way that things were done, for decades. There's this brand new age thing punches us right in the face, and either we adjust right now, we keep plowing through, like we either adjust or get left behind. And
it honestly, it's just a continuation of what has already been going on. I mean, because when you think about it, we've been I don't know. I'm not even talking about paying players at that point. Like I'm talking about adapting to the business of college football. We've been getting punched in the face for a while. When Haluba Hall was finished in 2001, it was probably one of, if not the best practice facilities in the country. And what happened was we didn't update it for a decade.
Yeah.
And then in the second half of the early 2000s, that's when you had Alabama building their facilities, Clemson, Ohio State. That's when the facilities wars took off. And now we're just trying to catch up.
Yeah.
So, and that's not over either. Even with NIL, Franklin the other day, I think it was at Big Ten Media Days or something, was talking about even if you get your NIL solution to on par with these other programs, that just means that the players are then going to turn back to facilities and see which program's better. So it's going to sound cliche because it's what he says all the time, but it's about competing in everything. You have to be willing to compete in everything.
Well, for these $1 million investments into the programs and the facilities, when the Big Ten media deal gets announced with whoever the plethora of the carousel of networks that's going to get it, Penn State will get their fair share of the pie here. So we got to think about all that news coming out right now, this media deal war going off right now.
So I mean, I think first, like, talk a little bit about the USC and UCLA news, because I mean, I think that sort of goes hand in hand with the media deal.
It does.
I personally am really excited for, like, I was really thrilled as a fan about the USC news and UCLA news, especially, like, I don't know, I just imagine USC coming into Beaver Stadium for a big game. Like that's going to be awesome, or giving us fans a reason to get out to the West Coast for a game out there against USC. I think it's going to be great. I mean, I know, like, the downsides people talk about are the logistics and things of that nature, but as a fan, like, that doesn't really affect us. So I think that's going to be awesome.
I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, like that. It's going to be cool to see. It's going to be cool to see USC come in to play a game, but it just doesn't feel right. It does. Well, it's scary about, it's more competition, obviously, but it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't.
Yeah, I
feel
mean,
right to me at all.
the USC as of late is one thing, but the new USC that I think is
Oh, yeah.
coming, it's reemphasized a lot of points we already mentioned, but like this next stretch, Matt, where you said it's like a crucial step. I think USC coming into the conference now with their new look program is something scary that if we don't keep up, now not only are we competing against a team like Ohio State every year, we're competing against, pretty much the equivalent of what Oklahoma has been the past few years, is what USC is probably going to look like. So I think that's something that's a little scary and intimidating, as if we don't compete and we don't make these big moves and start to really hammer home recruiting, on field playmaking, those types of things, that we could become a mediocre Big Ten team and really get left out of the spotlight.
Just let me put some closing remarks on that particular end, and then we can go back to the Big Ten, because I know, Coco, you wanted to hit on that. On a positive note, I do think we are finally getting to a point where we're ready to compete in everything. If you've heard the way Franklin has talked about the new AD hire with Pat Kraft, it's encouraging. He's used the phrasing like, we're on the same page. I don't have to go into his office and give a spiel about why I think investment in X, Y, and Z is important. And just seeing how Franklin has handled those types of issues in the past, the fact that he's saying that now kind of makes me think that he and Sandy Barber may not have been as much on the same page as we would have been led to believe in the public. So I think that we might finally be getting to a point where we will start, we're doing the upgrade of the Losh building right now. I think we're going to continue to see those types of things. And I think it's only going to continue to grow as Kraft gets more comfortable and we move on here, on top of the new media rights deals that are going to bring a boatload of money in.
Yeah. And on that same note, I mean, you want to talk about optimism coming into the season. I mean, this offseason was incredible, between the recruiting class that we have going here, between the Pat Kraft, like you mentioned, the new AD that seems to be a home run hire, and then Manny Diaz coming on board. There just seems to have been a lot this season that this offseason that, as a fan, I look forward to seeing come to fruition.
And Matt, what you were saying with things are slowly turning around, Franklin saying optimism between him and the AD. I'm not sure if that optimism is going through all of the other FBS coaches right now. Obviously, you guys saw that the coaches poll got released earlier this week. Maybe to some surprise, maybe not, depending on how we finished last year. But preseason coaches poll, Penn State was left out of the top 25, and just want to see what you guys thought, because I have my own opinions, but I'll come back off someone else or wants to leave that off.
I don't think it really matters.
It doesn't.
I would
at all.
I would venture to guess that over half of the coaches don't actually vote themselves.
Someone opening the mail is casting that vote on their behalf.
Yeah, it's the SID or whatever. So I can just read through it quickly, the top 10, so we can get a sense. Alabama 1, Ohio State 2, Georgia 3, no shockers with any of those. Clemson 4, Notre Dame 5, Michigan 6, Texas A&M 7, Utah 8, Oklahoma 8, Baylor 9. Or I'm sorry, Oklahoma 9 and Baylor 10.
Notre Dame's always in the top 10. They're always overranked.
I'm kind of buying the Marcus Freeman hype, but that can be a conversation for another day.
Kyle just wants to be a classic fan hating on Notre Dame, which is fine. Yeah. You have to.
But I don't think we deserve to be in that preseason based on how we finished last year.
I just don't think it matters.
I don't think Franklin cares either.
No one cares.
And it's the coaches poll. If we're not in the AP poll next week, then it's okay. That kind of sucks, but
maybe stings a little more knowing that.
But
you won't have a number next to your name. The first week one or whatever.
Gives you more to prove, though.
Even in the coaches poll, I think we came in 27th. We were the team receiving the second amount of most votes outside the top 25. I think it was Iowa, then us, just outside the top 25. So, it's a fun talking point. It's great for conversation, but that's what all these preseason polls are at the end of the day.
If there is a silver lining, the last time we were outside the coaches poll to start the season, we went on, it was in 2016, went on to win the Big Ten championship. So if luck runs with us this year, maybe that happens again. But I'm
So
optimistic to a fault here.
let me ask, who do you think was the one coach that gave Texas the number 1 vote?
Yeah, so
I think it was Saban.
So that's I heard this segment on ESPNU radio. They were discussing like who could no one in their right mind can actually give Texas the number 1 vote. So it was, and I don't think it's actually been released yet, right? Like
No,
it hasn't been leaked.
They do that.
It will eventually come out. But
Yeah, I'm trying to look because it's either got to be Sark or it's got to be Saban because I don't know who else.
I
in their
know,
right
I
mind
think
would
it
give
could
it.
I don't
think it
think
could
you're
be-
allowed to vote for your own team though. I don't think you place a vote
Oh
for
yeah,
your
that's
own
true.
team.
Okay.
So
That's true. Yeah, maybe it was Lane Kiffin. I could see Lane Kiffin doing
I
that.
hope it's Lincoln Riley and just like he votes for Texas just to give like one last like sign off to Oklahoma there or something
yeah,
like
I mean,
that.
and honestly, if you're a coach voting and just say you could vote for yourself, I mean, you either go one or two ways. You vote for your team to be number 1 because it's like, oh, we're the best, no matter where you think you truly fall. It's like you ingrain that mentality that we're the best, or you go the polar opposite and you don't rank them at all and be like, look at these guys, like they don't even think we're worthy of a top 25.
Yeah, you need some fuel either way, right?
Yeah. Kyle, back to
We
your
wanna get
point
back-
though. Yeah, on the Big Ten, the media. I mean,
Yeah.
the ESPN rumor that's out there, as far as I know, it's still a rumor. Nothing's been official, but it's interesting. But yet, one of those stories that, at the end of the day, I don't think means much. Like,
Well, let's just take a step back in case people haven't been following what's going on yet. So it was
everyone knows this.
Well, I'll just make sure it's bad podcasting practice if you just start talking about a topic and people don't know what's going on. So
That's true. We are experts.
Sport, we're getting there. Sports Business Journal reported on Monday.
Oh my gosh,
that
he's even citing.
Something like a
I
thesis
am.
paper here.
It was John.
He's gonna bring the printout with him to the
Sports
tailgate
Business
too.
Listen, you all can get your shticks on here, and people will know you for whatever. I'm going to be known as the guy who has his facts straight.
Who has 8
So-
subscriptions to?
Who's the nerd and listens to what journal is this again?
Sports Business Journal. You see, I'm
He
tuned in.
looked this up on Google Scholar.
I got
continue,
eyes.
Matt.
I got eyes and ears everywhere. Just saying. So Fox has 60% of the stake, the A package. CBS has the B package, split with NBC. So CBS gets the 3:30 game, the traditional SEC spot, and then NBC would get the night games. So as well as Peacock streaming, and ESPN would be on the outside looking in for the first time in 4 years.
Oh
So-
jeez, I'll have to explain to my mom and grandfather how to use Peacock when Penn State's play like 8 o'clock on a Saturday night.
I mean, I think the biggest takeaway is from a fan of a specific team. I don't think it matters. Like, no matter where Penn State is playing, no matter what channel they're on, we're gonna find them and watch the whole thing start to finish. I don't think that's relevant. I think the most interesting nugget out of this is the fact that like ESPN is undoubtedly the home of college football. They have the most shows regarding college football. They have an entire channel, ESPNU, devoted to college sports, but largely college football. ESPNU radio and SiriusXM is literally college football all day. So the question becomes like, do they still put as much emphasis on the Big Ten out of spite and just sort of mildly ignore them and not quite like promote the Big Ten teams as much out of spite to the Big Ten?
I think they'll be shooting themselves in the foot if they don't, because they'll be turning off viewers from ESPN. Like if we're watching, college football live on a day after work or something like that, and they're just blatantly not talking about any of the upcoming Big Ten games, not just us, but they're turning off viewers that way, aren't they?
Yeah,
I mean,
I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
But I mean, so if your options are between watching Indiana and Illinois and Georgia and A&M, which one are you going to pick? Because I don't care how pissed off I am at ESPN. I'm going to watch the better game.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think they're more saying
Well, we have
like,
three TVs down here, so we can watch all three.
I think people are more saying like, is ESPN going to snub as much airtime to the Big Ten just in their shows, like their because really all that stuff is it's promotion, right?
Like,
at the end of the day,
yeah,
it's promotion.
Is game day going to go to the Big Ten anymore?
Yeah,
basically.
and like yes, like there's no way they could just blindly say we're no longer. But you can't change my mind that they might give a school that if there's a toss up, maybe the Big Ten has a slight edge to they would go to the Big Ten school traditionally. Now it's like, maybe we won't.
I also.
Are you concerned though with? I know you were saying about watching all the games. Doesn't matter what network what network it's on. We're going to watch them either way. Totally agree with that. But are you concerned at all for like the timing of some of the games, in particular, maybe the whiteout?
Well, that's what I was just going to say. I think the bigger impact to us is that the whiteout, as we know it, is dead on arrival, because Fox is getting the biggest game of the week. That's going to be big noon, and you're either faced with having a noon whiteout, or you're going to put it at a game that doesn't mean as much. So I mean, that's something that we have to figure out moving forward what we want. So I still think that if
I know it's a complicated world, but like the contracts, the way that all this, but like if Fox owns the right to the number one game, can they sell that? Can they sell that individual game? Like if they own the right to that individual game?
I think they can. That is how we got. That's how we ended up on Fox for the Purdue game, because in the Joel Klatt trade or whatever it was, I think. But I think they can, but I don't know why they would. Would you give up Penn State, Ohio State to come watch?
No, unless someone's willing to pay such a boatload of money to get a whiteout Ohio State game.
Agreed. I mean, outside of that would be the only thing, right?
Maybe if another great game falls on that week, like maybe if if we're playing Ohio State and another big game, Michigan's playing a big opponent that week, or someone where they could fill the noon slot and sell off that 8:00 slot to someone, like it'll be interesting.
Yeah, almost like time will tell, kind of. We got to see how the season goes to see how it really pans out. But at the moment, to Matt Thomas's original point, it seems like it's kind of dead on arrival.
Yeah.
Does Ohio State still have does Fox still have a 7:30 slot? Like, I know they traditionally had one. Wasn't the whiteout game against Ohio State in, what was that? Last time we were in person there. I'm pretty sure that was 7:30. Again, it's been a few years, because
that was I think it was the ABC game still, or the ESPN game. I don't know if they do, and it'll kind of be hit or miss, because you got to keep in mind that Fox has the World Series too. So if the game is in October, they're not gonna bump that to show us.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Good point.
I do think though, and the Michigan game last year was a good test. I think Ohio State this year will be another good test, that if there is a lot on the line, that the fans are still going to show up no matter, and they're still going to be intimidating, whether it's the whiteout or not. So it really just comes down to having that spectacle that at this point is just a recruiting ploy. So I think.
And honestly, I mean, would it be great if Ohio State was the whiteout night game? Yes. It's not, but I can look at it and say, okay, well, we get an extra big game at home now. I mean, we could, the whiteout's a big game just because it's the whiteout, and Ohio State's a huge game just because it's Ohio State. So it adds that extra big game atmosphere to our home schedule, which never hurts.
And we all know that Franklin that week for Ohio State, he's a telefan sore, but anyways, isn't that, even though it won't be like, it's not be the official calendar.
I would have thought it would have been like an impromptu whiteout, but I think it's already a scheduled stripe out, isn't it? So.
Oh, is it?
That they're not gonna.
They should have done
stripe out.
They should have done what they did last year, or was that like student whiteout, and then it basically just becomes an all stadium whiteout, unless you get stuck in the one blue section like I did, which was a bit of a disappointment. But
I mean, realistically, I mean, the stripe out is the student whiteout, so the student section will still be all white, which is always cool looking. But the impromptu whiteout, I agree, Kyle, it's pretty cool too when that happens. But being that they have a stripe out schedule, it won't happen.
Franklin just says where white we are or whatever. He says something like a quick little sentence tweet, and then everyone's like, "All right, coach, I got you."
Yeah.
Yeah.
The tweet circulates quick.
Yeah. So I seen in. Go ahead, Matt. Do you have something?
No, I was going to see if anyone else had any other comments on that.
No, on that I'm good.
All right, so let's get into a little bit of recruiting. This has also been something that's come up this week. The good news is we got a 4-star wide receiver today. Bad news is we lost a 4-star edge rusher yesterday. So who wants to take the first stab at the wild world of recruiting?
Yeah, I mean,
tomorrow.
I will say that recruiting is an area where I don't live and die. Like, it's some of these other podcasts do like a great job of covering recruiting in such depth and who's on campus and who's here and who's there and visits. And it's just, to me, it's such a crazy world and it changes so momentarily that it's like, yes, do I pay attention and see when we get a big commitment? Yes. Or a big decommitment? Yes. But I don't live and die with recruiting. When a person decommits, move on to the next one. When a person commits until they actually sign, I don't put too much faith in commitments, especially the way college football is nowadays.
Agreed. And I think just to hop off that, I think, Franklin arguably has done a really good job recruiting. I mean, regardless on whether some of these guys stay or whether they leave, I think part of the problem is these days with us, I think the recruiting's gotten so much better than what it was that when we see these big name guys leave, we're all up in arms for the most part. I know, Trent, maybe you're not, but some of us are. But I think, if you look at some of the people he snagged, lately, there's been a lot of great names that are still hanging on to the program. So, and we just, like Matt said, we picked up another great player today. So I'm not too upset about it. I don't get too mixed with it just because, like you said, it's so many ups and downs. And I think, again, overall, we've gotten a lot better.
And it's happening everywhere, right? I mean, recruiting is one of those things that, like, your really big recruits are national news when they commit or decommit. But, like, if they're not like top 10 recruits, I mean, a decommitment on another program is not really something that gets to us as Penn State fans. So it's happening at all these schools all across the country. It's only news if it's in your inner circle.
Yeah, and I think another thing to keep in mind too is because I've heard a lot of, the sky is falling kind of rhetoric. I don't know about any of you all, but on some of the message boards and people are upset. There's still an entire senior season for these kids to play. So there are players that are waiting to probably blow up that haven't yet. So, people are freaking out that, there's not another top edge rusher to go get or whatever. Like, something will get figured out, And the quickest way to figure it out is to win on the field, to be quite honest with you. So you want to worry about
I would argue the quickest way to figure it out is the transfer portal.
I was just about to say, love or hate it, the transfer portal. I mean, if you can't find a recruit, you're going to
if you have a hole there, go fill it. Like, that's what's nice. I heard, like, people say, like, the transfer portal today is equivalent to, like, JUCO back in the day. Like, when you had a area that needed to be filled back in the day, you'd go to junior colleges to find that player to fill it, where now you could just hop on the transfer portal and see if you get one of those guys to swing over. And I think we've done a good job with the transfer portal.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but transfer portal wise, we got that edge rusher from Maryland this year, I believe. I think was that Chop Robinson, I think his name is. Apparently he's making some noise at camp. And then two different Penn State podcasts.
I think the one we've heard about the most is Mitchell Tinsley. So, wide receiver, see what he does. I mean, his production was unreal, obviously, but
they also throw the ball like 90.
Exactly, they threw the ball a ton, and they're not playing in the Big Ten either. So, and we'll see how that translates. But I think it'll be a good relief for our receiving core to have that extra guy that teams have to focus on. It's always important.
I'll try and limit the loss of Jahan there, I guess, a little bit. I mean, obviously you got a generational talent, but if we can try and limit that hole that we're going to have to try and fill this year at wide receiver.
Yeah. But if you want to hear our full review of the offense and the defense this year, you're going to have to tune in next week. because that's when we're gonna do that nonsense. See, that's good podcasting right there.
He's doing that
That-
nonsense.
Yeah,
You're
we're not
making
gonna
it sound
We're not.
make it sound too official.
That's where I would.
We're not- we're not-
That's where you just lost me. I'd turn it off and never watch another episode.
Well, I'm not trying to get people like you, Trent. So
That's funny.
I am gonna shift gears here. I'm gonna turn it over to our resident degenerate gambler, Coco, who's gonna introduce our first segment of this podcast. Pick your plate.
Not
Coco,
a degenerate.
go ahead.
It's called gambling responsibly.
Well,
No
we're
one's
not.
professional.
We're not sponsored by a gambling company, so we don't got to give the whole
Oh,
lawyer
Well, then put
spiel,
whatever,
the legal
put-
spiel.
put whatever you want on. Then I don't care. Listen to us. But yeah, for this pick your plate segment.
What do you got?
What we're trying to envision for this podcast is for our Thursday episodes, I believe only. Try to give you guys a few bets, keep track of them throughout the season. See how we're doing as an aggregate, individually. Obviously talk about the Penn State game that week for the spread. Maybe
Probably
mix in
not going to
some-
be very good. Good picks,
Okay.
Kyle.
pick the Penn State, obviously the Penn State game, then talk about the big games that week. Obviously that Bama Texas game is going to be in the season. We can hammer that.
What game was it last year? You took the over on a.
It was
like over 60 or something, and they scored like.
No, the two games I missed big last year. I went the under in the Red River Shootout, and that went to like that over hit like by halftime or something like that. Where it was like, but yeah, I do have a few little preseason bets for you guys. As Matt said earlier, that we're going to focus on the offense and defense in future episodes. But I do have
Give us the bets.
hey, relax there. I got a nice little spiel here. So one.
How long did you work on that spiel?
I think I'm falling
It's not
Too long, apparently.
Listen, listen. If Matt can research
still
the
going.
sports, if Matt can research the Sports Business Journal, I can type up a little paragraph.
It's not called research. It's called Google.
All right, guys. Penn State's offense ranked 90th out of 130 in FBS teams in total points scored. We had our team scored 325 points over 13 games. That averaged to 25 points per game. And I want to get your opinions on this pick. Over under, Penn State will average 27.5 points per game when it's all said and done at the end of the season. This doesn't include bowl games, so that's the 13th game in the season there. So get your opinions on that.
I honestly, so these are the fun segments, right? When you get 4 Penn State fans on, picking Penn State spreads and things like that. But I do like the over. I don't think our offense can. Compared to last year, I see us better in a lot of areas. Maybe not as good in some other areas, but I don't think the drop's going to be very significant at a group like the wide receivers core. I'm hoping the tight ends are used more this year and better. I'm hoping Clifford stays healthy and is looking good and experienced. I'm hoping our line is definitely better. So I do like the over.
It has to be over, right? I don't see how it could go any worse than it did last year. Geez, we played 9 freaking overtimes and we scored 10 points. So, I don't think I'm breaking any news here to say that the run game was the opposite of good last year. So I think even if you just see an average running team, it's going to help tremendously. So I'm going to go over too.
Yeah.
I would like to, try to take the opposite of these guys, but I'm going to go along with them. I actually like the over. Also, because I think running the ball is going to be a lot better this year. The tight ends are going to be a lot more experienced, and I'm just hoping for a little bit different of a scheme this year than just passing the ball the whole time.
Winnie didn't know what he was going to pick until he heard us go.
No,
he was waiting.
Well, that's what's great. Like it could have been 600 points for the season and 60 points per game, and I would have said probably over.
For and little tidbit there, that 27.5 points per game that the line we're betting here would have ranked 76th in college football last year. So
Yeah.
pretty much I'm looking at it like, are we better than the
How many points for the season total is that?
that was early in the week.
So if you're wondering, Kyle gave us these bets, and he gave us two separate bets that were really the same bet. He gave us points per game and total points for the season, which was the total points for the season divided by 12. And like Kyle, they're the exact same bets.
Well, for the sake of time, I'm also going over.
He's just trying to help, because if you place both of those bets and they both hit, then you're winning double your money. He's just looking out for you. That's gambling responsibly right there.
Yeah.
Now the flip side of that, Penn State's opponents scored 225 points last year, averaged out over 13 games, is 17.3 opponents' points per game, which ranks 6th nationally. My over-under for you guys is 19.2 opponents' points per game, and that would have been 13th overall in 2021. So I'm taking let's be honest, we had a pretty good defense last year.
Yeah.
So I'm saying if we regress a little bit to would have been 13th last year, over under 19.2.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's interesting because, and this is a tough one, just because we're going a very different defense than we seen last year in terms of coordinators. Like, I mean, Brent Pry, man, we gave up a lot of yards. Teams marched up and down the field on us, but it didn't result in a ton of points, where Manny Diaz plays a pretty aggressive defense. So, I mean, I could see us losing some big plays over the top and things of that nature, which will help our offense out because they're playing more aggressive, hopefully resulting in more turnovers, getting our defense off the field and getting the ball back in our offense's hands. But I think that can lead to more points given up on the defensive side of things this year. So I might take the over.
I'm trying to take it on that. Like the Wisconsin game alone last year, how many times Wisconsin marched on the field on us, and in the first half alone, where we had a block field goal, a turnover.
I mean, when you look at the stat lines or just during the game, you feel like you're getting smoked, and then you look at the score and it's like,
no,
at the time we're winning. It's like you feel like we're playing so much worse than the score shows. A lot of times with Brent Pry defenses.
So Trent, what would you pick on that?
I'd say our opponent score over that in points per game, just because, like I said, I think our offense will benefit from Manny Diaz, hopefully resulting in more turnovers and things of that nature. But I think it could result in a few more points scored.
I'll go before Matt, so he can't complain that I took his answer. But I'm actually going to take the over as well. Kind of going off the Manny Diaz vibe, right? Hear me out though. So from my experience in sports and watching sports, I think that whenever you bring a new coach and a new defense or offense or anything like that into a program, even your veteran guys, they have to kind of transition into this new style. So I think especially early on, you're going to see a lot of growing pains.
You know all this from playing at Wilson, don't you?
Definitely, dude. Michael Parsons and I battling him out. But I think you're going to see a lot of growing pains, especially early on. So I think maybe by the end of the season they'll have it together. But I think this year will be definitely a year of growth and just understanding the defense. So I'll take the over.
Yeah, I'm going over too for the same kind of reason. No. I mean,
it's a good segment.
Wow, these are.
If you want to go there, I just heard Franklin talk at Penn State Media Days the other day, which you guys didn't want me to talk about today, how he said that a lot of the onus is on Manny Diaz to change towards what Penn State has done in terms of terminology and things like that. So you're really only talking about playing a similar scheme with a little bit, with different changes. So, but I do think the defense, I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be more aggressive. And I think for that reason, you're going to see more chunk plays and as a result, more points. So over.
All right.
Yeah. So, and that concludes pick your plate. We got more.
Oh, you got a bonus one.
We do have one more here.
Throwing a fun one in there.
Throw a fun one in here. Non-Penn State one here. Illinois team that beat us last year in that just horrible overtime game at Beaver State. And it's fun for non-Penn State fans to watch a 2-point. How many 2-point overtimes was there?
Seven. 2 overtimes and 7 2-point conversions, and I was ready to jump off the back of Beaver Stadium and try to get out.
Still hate that rule.
Yeah, that can be a feature.
I mean, I'll throw their schedule out here quick because I have it in front of me. Illinois has Wyoming, at Indiana, Virginia, Chattanooga, at Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota, at Nebraska, Michigan State, Purdue, at Michigan, and at Northwestern.
I was telling Matt before we got on the pod here that it's not the realm of possibilities that Illinois can start 4-0 to start the season. Like, their non-conference is as close to a cakewalk as you can get. Like, that Virginia game, I mean, we'll see, but I think Illinois can go 4-0, and then all you gotta do is win one more game. And
we learned the hard way against Virginia, Kyle.
Yeah. I'm going under for no other reason other than I was sick and tired of hearing that coaching staff bang on the press box behind us last year. So I just want nothing but pain and misery for them. So my very uneducated football guess is under.
Yeah,
purely spite pick there.
Yeah, I'm going with the over. I agree with what Kyle says. I think what were they last year, 5-7 or something like that. I let Brett Bielema there. I think maybe he can get something going a little bit. So I like Illinois over.
Yeah, you just need Illinois to beat like one team that they're not supposed to, or even if they go like.
Yeah, I mean they got some bad Big Ten teams on there too. I mean, they don't have Rutgers this year, but they do have Indiana. They do have Northwestern. So I mean, those are some bad teams, and then Nebraska. You know, we'll see. Minnesota, we'll see. Like, there's some toss-ups there too. So
you have to keep in mind though that this is Northwestern's year to go win the Big Ten West. So they're off and on every year, and this is an on year. So
yeah.
So, Winnie, what you got?
Game time decision here.
Flip a coin.
Yeah, I'll take the.
Hang on. Before you get.
Winnie doesn't even know what color Illinois wears.
They changed their offensive coordinator. So if you want to go with their taking a long time for things to develop, you know.
Their offensive coordinator is Barry Looney Jr. If that helps you out, Winnie.
I'm taking the over just because the name of the coordinator.
might be Lunny. I don't know. It's Lunney. I like Looney better.
Oh man, I hope he hears the podcast and
he's probably a listener. Yes.
Yeah, please add him in the comments.
Hey, if he wants to come on the podcast, just let us know.
Yeah. We'll open up a spot.
Our first guest is the Illinois offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
That's all I got for pick your plate segment. That's gonna be a mouthful of sage time. I also stutter, so I mean, it's making even worse.
Anything else you want to tell us, Coco?
I think I got it for that segment.
All right, Coco, you got a whole season to keep track of our picks here to see how we're doing.
Keep all the listeners involved, how we're doing. Do you want to do a little like fun wager, regular season champion who gets it here? Who gets the?
Yeah. I don't need anything from you guys.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah,
I got everything I need and nothing that I don't.
You're getting soft here.
So, I mean, also keep in mind, I just bought a house and got married, so I don't really have that much disposable income right now. So, I'm not going out and gambling it on the sports book like you are.
I know the three of us had about like $600 suits for that wedding. We don't have that much disposable income either.
Hey,
yeah, I wish I only had to pay for a $600 suit for that wedding. Let me tell you,
Matt, if you're trying to convince the fans of our show here, our listeners, to start a GoFundMe for you, I don't think you're making a great case.
I mean, Winnie's putting GoFundMes for gas money out there.
So. Oh, don't tell him I need it to get to some of these games this year.
I mean, I think you're only going to 2, so even I can spot you on that gas money.
Oh no, we'll see.
Oh wait,
I'm gonna get more than
one more off the cuff. Pick your plate segment here. Winnie over under 2.5 games attended this year at Beaver Stadium.
Under.
I mean, under. There's some arbitrage there.
You're not going to go to 2. Surely.
Well, I mean, he gets to decide if he could go to more than 2. So I'll take the overweight, Winnie, and split the money.
There you go, Thomas. You better save your pennies.
Under because We know you. It's going to be game time, and we're going to try to be talking about something, and you're going to be, oh, I'm going on a hike somewhere. It's really nice today. So
That's Matt's
Thomas,
lock of the season right there.
check your check your cushions for coins. I'm telling you, we're gonna run it up on you, Trent and I.
Oh yeah,
I'll believe it when I see it. All right, so into the home stretch for this show tonight. I wanted to just let you all talk a little bit about when you fell in love with Penn State. Now that sounds like a little bit of a weird
God.
question. Cue the heartstring music. But I think we've all had that moment when it's turned from just watching a football team that our family supports or something like that to realizing it was truly special. So I'll start so you can get a little sense, and Winnie can probably copy my story if you want to take.
Hold on, let me go
see
if it's the homework while we're at it here.
Yeah, let me pull up a Word doc here so I could write this down.
So, obviously, like, we were still fairly young. I remember a lot of Penn State games and flashes leading up to 2005. Nebraska 2002. I remember Iowa 6-4, that pitiful game in 2004. I remember the Michigan State game in 2004. I remember 2005 was really the first season that I can fully remember. We played South Florida early in that season. We blew out Cincinnati early in that season. It would look like a good win now, but back then it wasn't. I remember Michael Robinson just truck sticking that guy going down the sidelines against Minnesota.
Yep.
But then the game that really did it for me was Ohio State. We were undefeated. Ohio State had one loss. They were still in the top 10. Game day was there for the first time in forever. It was a terrible day, just pouring down rain. We were in the north end zone in the upper deck watching that game, and they played Zombie Nation so many times that you could literally see the north end zone shaking if you were looking at the lights, like just bouncing up and down like that. And my poor mom was so scared that this thing was going to collapse that she wasn't even standing. She had her head between her knees, and she was just praying that this thing was not going to come down on everyone below us. So, and that tackle, that sack that Tamba Hali had at Troy Smith where he flips over on his head, to me, that's still one of the most iconic images for Penn State football ever. So that's my moment.
Winnie's going to be on 4 pages here if he's taking notes. My God.
I know.
Well, I believe him.
I didn't realize this was just football. For Matt to get his love off his chest.
It was my first love. Sorry, Alex, but
I was trying to fact check some of those stats too to make sure the accuracy on the games.
They're all
fact
right,
checking like fact checking like the kindergarten-year-old Matt Thomas.
Yeah. I was trying to make sure that he was the age he said he was.
I would say for Trent, you want to go?
Yeah, go ahead, go.
I don't want to bring anyone tears in anyone's eyes here, but I would say for
keep
me,
it briefer than Matt's, please.
Yeah.
We have 2 hours again. I would say for me, what would be probably around the same age as Matt. Probably like we're 05. We're probably what, kindergarten, first grade. I'm assuming. I think
third grade.
Somewhere in there. I don't know. A long time ago. But
Kyle was probably
still hang it. Yeah, I was gonna say we were in third grade. You were on your second stint of kindergarten.
We every Labor Day weekend, when Penn State would have a home game. My grandparents, my parents, my brother, and my great aunt and uncle would go up and stay at the at the Ramada there in State College. We did the whole weekend, big tailgate, playing football with my dad and my brother in like the lobby area of the Ramada, that huge carpet area. We're playing like tackle football in like this like hotel lobby. So like that's like the biggest first memories I have, like going to State College, and that's like an annual thing when, or I guess whenever they would have a home game that weekend, which usually early in the season, non-conference games, we'd be home for that. I would say that's when I'm like, wow, I can see myself like having fun here, going to school here, and that's when I probably fell in love with going to Penn State. And I'm gonna clip this and send it to Hallmark then for their like.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna not go down a rabbit hole of emotions here like these two. For me, it's definitely the Notre Dame game. Obviously, I've been to a lot of games before that, but back in 2007 or whatever it was, that's really the first game that I went to. The whiteout and the student section's like just crazy, and the punt return. That's probably the first time like I really like truly became a huge passion of mine, for sure.
the real reason he kept it short is because he doesn't love anything as much as he loves himself. So
That's true. Well, I'm waiting to hear Winnie is probably going to be like, well, it's probably last year when I turned on the TV and.
Now I'm gonna hit you guys with a really a tearjerker here that I think it's funny you guys talk about like a certain time. And I think arguably after hearing this, you may all agree with me to a sense. So like I fell in love with Penn State initially, probably when I was in 5th or 6th grade, going to a game. And it was kind of the idea of just going to a game with my dad and getting that experience and seeing the stadium and seeing the atmosphere, people tailgating, right? But then I think arguably that's when I kind of first fell in love with the idea. And then it was just, you see Joe Paterno, you want to play football, and that's where you want to go to school and play football, Pennsylvania kid. But then I think the love kind of changes in a way, like when you get to the college level and you're there at the games and you're actually in the student section and you're a part of something and you kind of like, you're in that part of it where I don't even really know how to explain it. I mean, for the people who've been in there, they get it. But I think that's just a different piece of it where once I was in that moment, I think that was just where the love kind of evolved even more, if that makes sense. So like there's different kind of stages, I think, where I kind of fell in love with Penn State, but it just kind of grew more and more depending on my age and the experiences around it. I wouldn't necessarily say it was a game where Penn State did this one play and bam, that's where I fell in love. I think it was just more or less the history, the atmosphere, and the culture is what drew me into loving Penn State.
Oh, I would fall in love with going to a game with your dad too, because he's an awesome dude.
He's a great guy. We'll have to get him, try to feature him on here at some point.
big Joe in the pot here.
Oh man.
I'll also just add as a follow up the game after Ohio State.
Oh geez, another story.
Michigan 2005, we got screwed. They added an extra second back to the clock for Lloyd Carr. We never should have lost that game. We should have been undefeated. We should have been playing in the Rose Bowl. And sorry, Vince Young, we would have won that game. So,
are you done now?
I will. Yeah, I'm done. I just had to get. I've been waiting for this moment since that game happened to get it off my chest.
He's been waiting to have a platform. That's why.
People ask Matt, they'd be like, "What's on your mind?" He's like, "It's not the time. I'm not ready to talk about it yet."
I'm just
the
waiting.
The whole point of this podcast was for that line right there.
He owes it to his third grade
chest.
We can shut it down right now.
he owes it to his third grade self to just let his feelings out right there.
Dude, it was the first time I ever felt pain.
Wow.
All right. Wrapping it up tonight, we are gonna close it out with a segment that we call Last Call. And the way this is gonna work is we're each gonna go around and ask one final question, yes or no format, and we're gonna go rapid fire with everyone to answer. So who wants to kick us off here?
Human.
All right. That's my last call question for you guys is, one of the big announcements I got not too long ago is NCAA football, the video game. It's coming back next summer. I think it's release dates around like July 2023, I believe. My question for you guys is, would you spend the money for a next-gen console to go and buy that game? I'll answer first real quick. I am 100% on board that I am going to buy a PS5.
So it's supposed to be yes or no.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Well,
yes
yeah.
No.
Okay, fine. Yes. I thought we'd explain ourselves a little bit.
No.
All right, fine. Yes.
That's last call, Kyle.
All right, fine. Yes.
No for me.
Yes.
Yes, I would.
Who would have thought Winnie was going to say no?
I'm not gonna go out of my way and buy a new console and all that stuff. I think I'll just come over to your place and play it. But
what a cheapskate!
It'd be the first time you come over to my new house. So
yeah, I mean,
been here for a year.
I haven't got another invite since it was move-in time. So
it's a standing invitation. It's a little different. Trent, go.
Will Penn State have a turnover in the first game against Purdue? A defensive turnover. Defensively. Yes.
Well, the answer to both is yes.
Will we force a turnover?
The answer to both is yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm gonna go yes.
My turn.
Yeah, go ahead, Winnie.
All right. So the attendance record was set back in 2014, 110,753. Do we break it this year?
No.
Well, I don't. Those attendance numbers are just.
Well, how many yes or no answer, Trent? Hey,
yes
or no answer.
I don't have
saying
any
yes.
faith in them.
He had an internship with internal audit. He knows how that works.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He's got insider information. That's not a fair question.
Yeah. He can't disclose
I
that.
can't. Yeah, I can't. No answer. I'm like Kirk Herbstreit here in College Game Day. I'm calling that game, so can't pick, can't choose.
What's your question?
Okay, so I'm gonna go off the beaten track from football here a little bit.
What was the second time you fell in love with Penn State football?
Yeah.
Yes or no?
I'm just gonna rattle off games from the 2005 season and tell me if you had fallen in love with Penn State football. So, for those of you that did not see it, last night, former Penn State wrestler Bo Nickel won his first UFC debut by submission in 61 seconds. So my question is, would he take down our resident wrestler, Kyle Schumann, in less than 15?
When he tap out in 15 seconds or
Hey,
less?
yes or no?
Okay.
I'd go.
I'm going to say yes, but I'm going to put a spin on that. Would Kyle Schumann tear his ACL in less than 15 seconds wrestling Bo Nickel for a second time?
I could ask a question over that. Would it be the same knee or would it be a different?
I'd say same knee. 15 seconds sounds about right.
I say both ACLs in 13 seconds.
The answer to all of them is yes. So, and let me tell you, that was a hard question to come up with because my calculus was he did that to a professional fighter in a minute. So I'm cutting Coco in a quarter of that. I was going to go like 5 or 10 seconds, to be completely honest with you, because I mean, Pottsville wrestling is.
I'm just trying to like just run around like the octagon for.
I'd imagine there's a little bit of a weight class disparagement there.
That's also very true. I know Bo can handle this.
Again, Bo, if you're listening, we'll set up a match.
Yeah, come on the pod.
Yeah, he'll be on the pod next week. So tune in, guys. Bo Nickel will be on.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Anything else here?
Nope. I think that's it. Just a reminder for everyone to like us on your social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you listen to your podcast. Throw us a like. Give us a 5-star review, drop us a question, send us an email at PSU. Subscribe. Send us an email at PSU Tailgate Talk at gmail.com. And also, Coco, you don't know this because you were not at the one planning meeting on time, but we're going to use your number for call-in. So if you want to call into the show, just 570-449-7.
Well,
we won't do that to you.
Well,
maybe next week.
They got 3 more digits to figure out.
Yeah,
so. The odds are very good right now. But the good news, Kyle, is we're probably going to have like 10 listeners. So you can handle it.
And they all have your number. They have your number already. So.
Yeah, they'll disclose it in the comments.
Thanks, Mom. My mom's at home with the question, guys.
All right. Well, I think that's a wrap, guys.
Yeah.
We are Tailgate Talk. We'll see you next time.